As we gear up for game day, Ohio State's second game in their 2022 college football season, I can't get out of my mind what Mike Hall did last week and what he could do tomorrow against the Red Wolves of Arkansas State. The players, his teammates, they can't get enough of it either, as they're comparing him to one of the best players in the National Football League. Who are they comparing him to? We'll discuss that today on Locked on Buckeyes.
You are Locked on Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked on Buckeyes for the Locked on Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Friday, September 9th in the year 2022, and today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. I would also like to thank you for making Locked on Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. On today's episode, we will discuss some questions I have about this team going into the second game of the season and go over some lines, some betting lines via our friends at BetOnline and pick some more college football games as well. But before we get to any of that, anytime players at Ohio State compare a current one of their teammates to someone in the NFL, my eyes get open to what I'm reading, or maybe my ears may be more in tune to something if I'm listening to them talk about a certain player. And the player that was on Front Street this time, it's my call. 6'2", 290 pounds. This young man in his first collegiate start against a top 5 team, the number 5 team in the land, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who year in and year out have one of the better O-lines in the country. He went off and he was wreaking havoc. He was giving them fits all game long. The stat sheet says he had 4 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 1 sack in his debut as a starter. But what my eyes tell me on the film and when I rewatched the game was that he did way more than what showed up in the stat sheet a week ago. And his teammates realized the same thing. Like I said, anytime you compare somebody to somebody in the NFL or a professional, I'm going to be paying attention. But when you compare Mike Hall to Aaron Donald, who, as I am recording this podcast, is playing in the season opener in the National Football League right now, yes, Aaron Donald, that's what his teammates are comparing him to. Buddy, I am, excited. I saw flashes, but I don't like making comparisons like that in one game or even in a vacuum because I'm just not that kind of guy. But if his teammates see it and they see him every single day, maybe, just maybe, they're on to something that we might see more of throughout this season. Zach Harrison had this to say about Mike Hall, quote, "He's got explosion like wide receivers and DBs," end quote. JT Tuimoloau had this to say about Mr. Hall, quote, "Maybe Aaron Donald is what I've been saying," end quote. And now that last part is what I've been saying. That also is something a little bit different because if you've been saying it over and over and over, that might get to his head. That might get to the youngster's head and say, oh, you're comparing me to Aaron Donald? I mean, one of the best defensive players in the entire league, one of the best players in the entire league. Man, you can puff up your head. You can pump him up, whatever it is, inflate his ego. No, Mike Hall, from what I've been reading and seeing, has been working. I know he's been working because a few weeks before the season opener, nobody really thought Mike Hall was going to be a starter this season. Lo and behold, comes out against Notre Dame, starts, and man, he continues to really busted heads all game long. Zach Harrison had some more things to say, high praise, about his teammate, Mr. Mike Hall. Quote, "That's a crazy comparison, but I was thinking about that the other day. He's a small nose guard, but he's not weak. He's got heavy hands. He's strong," end quote. There are some more teammates that discuss this very comparison that people are making about Mike Hall. Quote, "That's a dog right there, Aaron Donald to me," end quote. That's Cam Brown. Cam Brown got into the conversation, and then Zach Harrison goes on and says a little bit more about his teammate. Quote, "He's just a special player. He's one of those guys, when you see him do stuff on the field, you acknowledge, especially being around for a while, that not everybody can do that, end quote. If you want to go back and go to the YouTube and see some more about what these players had to say without the different breakdowns of the quotes, go ahead and do that. It's on YouTube. They had a recent media availability and discussed this very thing. But even in the moment, I saw the same thing. Now, like I said, I don't come on here and I don't come on here and give comparisons and say, oh, so-and-so reminds me of X or so-and-so reminds me of Y. Oh my gosh, that running back, he is Z. I don't do that. That is not my mode. But if the players are saying it, the players want to go out there and go out on a limb and compare him to one of the best, a future first ballot Hall of Famer. I'll go out on a limb and say that about Aaron Donald. Man, I feel sorry for Arkansas State. Actually, no, I don't. I don't feel sorry for them. No, I don't. It's on the schedule. You know it's coming. I know you weren't around when the schedule was made and when this game was put in the books and when it got put out there that Arkansas State would make $1.8 million by playing Ohio State tomorrow. No, I don't feel sorry. I mean, it's college football. You know you're going to play a tougher opponent. And as Jeff Reed said a day ago, Arkansas State has played a lot of big-time opponents recently in Underdog Conference. Yes, they're check games. Yes, they are games to help fund your athletic department. At the same time, this could be a time for one of those players on the O-line from Arkansas State to shine. Wishful thinking. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it. As somebody in the YouTube comments realized yesterday, I was trying to hype up a game that is going to be a blowout, should be a blowout. We'll discuss more about the betting lines and what our friends at BetOnline have to say about this very game, because once you hear what they have to say, you'll believe what I am saying right now, that this game should be a blowout, that it will be a blowout. It's going to be a blowout because, one, the Buckeyes are better. Two, this defense should show up and show out early tomorrow. And then three, baby Aaron Donald. Let's go ahead and call him that right now. Baby Aaron Donald in my call. You think he did damage last week against Notre Dame? Wait till you see what he does to a team from the Sun Belt Conference. Aaron Donald, my call, that comparison is crazy. But that's just one player. There are other players that I have questions about, and I am watching closely tomorrow to see how they play. What can we learn? What questions do I have going into tomorrow's game? We'll discuss those next right here on Locked on Buckeyes. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week's games. BetOnline is also your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. I mentioned it a couple days ago. I'm going to remind you about it once again. A challenge to Ohio State Buckeye fans to get to 2,000 subscriptions by the kickoff of the Wisconsin game on September 24th. I know how wild, how crazy, how Ohio State fans fit the description of a fanatic when it comes to the fandom for the team. Well, let's help this YouTube channel get to 2,000 subscriptions really, really quickly. Other shows, Locked on Gators, recently have hit different milestones via YouTube subscriptions, and let's do the same thing here. Go to YouTube, search Locked on Buckeyes, hit that subscribe button, join the fun. Thank you. And then also hit the bell so you're notified every time a new show goes live. Yes, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything today. The Buckeyes should obliterate the Red Wolves. Yes, Arkansas State has talent. Yes, Arkansas State has guys, one player that used to play for Ohio State and Brian Snead. Yes, their quarterback used to play at Florida State. Yes, they have transfers from all over the country. I don't care. Yes, they have a guy who used to be a head coach in the SEC. Yes, Butch Jones was also on Alabama staff when Alabama beat Ohio State in the 2020 national championship game. Once again, I don't care. This is Ohio State. No contest. This should not be close. Ohio State should show up and show out early and just take care of business, knock them out, 21 points by the midway of the first quarter, and just run that score up. But in the meantime, while thinking about this game, there were some questions and things that I am thinking about in regards to this game specifically and what we can learn from this game. Even though I believe it's going to be a blowout, there are questions I have going into this game specifically, and particularly tomorrow against the Arkansas State Red Wolves. The first one's about CJ Stroud. I'm going to say, I make a statement that in the moment, many people may have said Stroud was bad last week, or Stroud had some problems. I think, one, a lot of people have discredited Notre Dame's secondary in their pass defense, dropping 8, sometimes dropping 9. Yes, someone on the podcast, won't say the name, said the drop 9 is not normal. It's not, but I have done a drop 9 in a video game every now and then because, buddy, sometimes you need to do that very thing to defend the pass. But CJ Stroud, I wonder how he comes out and how quickly he deciphers and picks apart the Red Wolves defense and secondary. Because last week I noticed with Notre Dame, there are sometimes he was trying to fit the ball in areas where no matter what, great defense, the ball was not going to get to the receiver. It wasn't going to happen. Sometimes passes were high. Sometimes passes were short. Sometimes passes were long. Early on, Notre Dame did a phenomenal job of muddying up the picture for Stroud. And Stroud, in his play, you quickly saw he was not all there with what he was doing. So I am watching CJ Stroud and trying to answer the question, how does CJ Stroud improve from his performance last week against Notre Dame? I believe he can improve. I don't believe he'll play 3 quarters, maybe 2.5. I don't think he'll need to. But I am watching Stroud, his poise, how he throws the ball. Does he run more? Because I firmly am still a believer that Stroud needs to run the ball occasionally instead of just trying to force the ball into windows that are too tight to fit a ball into. Go ahead and run the ball. How does Stroud improve? Not just in his passing game, but in his game overall. Does Ohio State run the ball more early in this game than they did a week ago? Now, on Twitter, I put a statement out there, and I said Mitch Rossi needed to play more. This is after last week's game. I think this was on Sunday morning or Monday morning, one of the two. I believe I said Mitch Rossi needed to play more. And someone, I believe they were a listener of the podcast, ended up coming back and simply asking, like, what's your thought for that? And I said they would have ran the ball more if Rossi was in the game. Now, I should have gone on and said ran the ball more early in the game, not the second half, because I do believe if you look at the final numbers, the rushing numbers, as far as rushing attempts and passing attempts, they're almost even. So the grand scheme of thing at the end of the game, you would think, oh, it's even. But there were moments in the first half, it was clear Ohio State needed to run the ball more, but for some reason, they continued to try to pass the ball around the yard. I think this Buckeye team needs to run the ball more, and running the ball more consistently will help Stroud in a game like this, or even in a game where he is struggling to make even the simplest of passes. Go ahead and make it easy for Stroud by running with Henderson, running with Williams, and then once they come off the field, Dallin Hayden comes into the game, and the other backup running backs at Ohio State can come in and tote the rock. So does Ohio State run the ball more in this game? I think they should have done it last week. I think they should run the ball more in the first half of every single game, especially more than what they did last year. But it's to be determined what we'll see. But that's just one question I have going into this game. Does Ohio State run the ball more and earlier in this game? Over to the defense. Does the Ohio State defense play with the same tenacity and physicality that they played with a week ago? You can also throw the word in, are they as disciplined as they were a week ago? And all the other things we saw from this defense that wowed us and amazed us and made us say, ooh, that's a good play. Or, I can't believe that happened. Will they continue to do that tomorrow against Arkansas State? It's easy, and sometimes it's human nature for us to overlook lesser opponents. Sometimes it's easy, and sometimes human nature for us to not bring our A game when we are an A+ team, and the team we're playing is a C- or maybe even a D+ team. It's easier for us to do that. It's not crazy to think that all of a sudden Ohio State's going to come into this game and they're going to fall. Oh, they're just going to lay an egg. Oh, they're going to miss a tackle. All this, all that. It's not crazy to think that. We are human. These types of things happen. So even in a game where you're playing an opponent that you should demolish quick, fast, and in a hurry, you don't want to let up on that tenacity, that physicality, the discipline you played with a week ago. Continue that in the game tomorrow against Arkansas State. Last but not least, last question I have going into this game, and this might be something I continue every game, every Friday before a game, just asking 3 or 4 questions leading into the next week's game. This kind of gets our minds working a little bit and thinking about things that possibly we have not been thinking about prior to the point where we're listening to this here podcast. Last question. What young guys flash tomorrow? I believe Ohio State played the least amount of players in last week's game, way less than what they did in any game last year. The Buckeyes played 13 from Minnesota to Oregon to Nebraska to Michigan State to Purdue to the team up north in the Rose Bowl. Ohio State played a lot of guys last year. I'm just not saying on offense or on defense, just as a collective unit. They played a lot of players. And so I'm curious to see what young guys flash, because Ryan Day even knows there's going to be more players that play in this game due to the nature of the game, due to how, well, the competition is not as good as as last week's competition. This thing should get out of hand. With that being said, you're going to see more. You might see 3 quarterbacks tomorrow. You might see 4 or 5 running backs tomorrow. You might see 10 receivers tomorrow. You might see 5 or 6 tight ends. You might see 8 or 9 or 10 offensive linemen. You might see 12 to 15 D linemen. You might see 7 linebackers. And you never know what's going to happen in the secondary of Ohio State. You never know how many guys are going to play. So I'm curious to see who is going to flash, who is going to step up. Will it be Josh Fryer, who was a backup O-lineman? Will it be him whenever he comes back in? Or we see, Josh Fryer, man, moving guys on the O-line, might play tackle, might play guard. I like what I see. Kyle McCord and Devin Brown, the second string and third string quarterbacks. What do we see from them in their first action during 2022? Dallin Hayden, who got bumped up the depth chart due to Evan Pryor's season-ending leg injury. What do we see from him tomorrow? Also, Kai Stokes, a guy who was flashy, made some big plays in a spring game. I do expect him to get on the field tomorrow in this game as well. And then a couple guys 3 more guys. CJ Hicks and Sonny Styles, 2 guys that everybody loves. I've heard not just heard good things about CJ Hicks. Physically, he looks different than he did when he got on campus earlier this year. And then Sonny Styles, who reclassified, does he get on the field? I think he might. Let's see what he does tomorrow. And then my guy from the state of Indiana, guy who I watched play a lot of high school ball, Mr. Caden Curry. When he gets on the field, I'm going to be watching closely to see how he busts heads against Arkansas State tomorrow in the shoe. Guys, our good friends at BetOnline have given us a lot of things to talk about, and they have put the betting lines out there for tomorrow's game against Ohio State. The spread has gotten bigger. How big is it? Where am I leaning? We'll discuss that. A betting portion of Locked On Buckeyes is coming up next. Ohio State fans have quickly got acquainted with Fox's Big Noon Kickoff pregame show and their premier game of the week, Big Noon Saturday, where our friends at Home Field Apparel have a big thing that they have going on. It's called Big New Saturday, where they reveal a new brand of designs of T-shirts and apparel. And Ohio State is in their final week. Their Ohio State collection is currently live. Home Field is a premium collegiate apparel brand out of Indianapolis. That is incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. Home Field digs through the archives and history of your school to find unique logos, mascots, and moments to make thoughtful designs for your school. Home Field, their Ohio State collection, has 17 pieces of apparel. They have t-shirts, hoodies, crew necks, and they are all vintage marks. Go to homefieldapparel.com and use that friendly promo code LOCKEDONBuckeyes. That's correct. It's all one word. The name of the podcast is the promo code, and you will save 15% at checkout. Once again, go to homefieldapparel.com and use that promo code LOCKEDONBuckeyes to save 15% on your new Buckeye apparel, because you can never have too much Buckeye gear in your closet. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more, and the best service in Central Ohio. Billiards Plus also can set you up with a brand new top-of-the-line grill that will last for generations. We all know how hard it is with the supply chain issues this year and getting certain things shipped on time. So when it comes to ordering that one big gift for Christmas, check out Billiards Plus and get there early this year. Pick something out and get it shipped in time for Christmas. It is a gift the whole family will enjoy year round. Billiards Plus carries the best pool tables from Brunswick, Olhausen, Canada, billiards, and more. Plus, top of the line grills from PK, Napoleon, Memphis, and Le Griddle. That'll be the last grill you own. Seriously, these grills stand the test of time. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. Check them out at billiards-plus.com. Once again, check them out at billiards-plus.com. Billiards Plus, family owned and operated for generations. We're trying to do things here on Locked on Buckeyes this year because last year, actually the past 2 years, I haven't really dived into and discussing the betting lines going into games or spending an extended period of time discussing them or even picking games. We got stock up, stock down happening on Wednesdays this year. We have questions leading it up into the game this year. And then we also got some betting lines. I mean, there's just so much to talk about right here. It's all right here about your Ohio State football team. The current betting line right now is Ohio State minus 44.5. I think last time I checked earlier in the week, it was 43.5. And what may have changed? Maybe people just realize how good Ohio State is and how much better they are than the Arkansas State Red Wolves. I don't know. Just a thought. But 44.5, that's a lot of points. That's a lot of points. I could easily see Ohio State winning this game by 50 tomorrow. That's a big change from what Jay said last week when Jay was nervous going into Notre Dame. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I could easily see this game being a 50-point deficit for the Red Wolves because one of the best things I think about this team is the defense is not something that's trying to get in the stride right now. What we saw last week, my guess is the backups at Ohio State, they're going to play with the same tenacity, physicality, discipline that defense played with last week. We're going to see that tenacity, physicality, and discipline all game long, including when the backups and second string and third string guys get on the field because they're that much better than Arkansas State. I would not be shocked if Ohio State wins this game by 50. Yeah, the current spread is Ohio State minus 44.5. Put your money on the Buckeyes. I'm going to go ahead and say that. Last week, I was putting my money on Notre Dame minus 17.5. Plus 17.5. This week, it's Ohio State minus 44.5. That's where I put my money. Then also the over-under of 68.5 points. I want to go under. Even though I think the Ohio State wins by 50, I don't know how high Ryan is going to push the score. Even though we did see Ohio State, I think in 2019 or 18, score 70 points in the game. My gut says under. If I was trying to be just a little frisky with the money, I might go with the over because it's really likely Ohio State scores 70 points tomorrow. Like, I understand what James Blackman can do. I understand what Flemings can do, the little receiver, the 5-5 receiver. The defense is whatever. But they played Grambling last week. Grambling is not Ohio State. Not today, not tomorrow. They would never beat Ohio State. So I'm going with the Ohio State minus 44.5, and I'm going with the under because 68.5 points in a game where I don't think the opposition is going to score more than 10. Yeah, I'm going with the under. I really wouldn't be shocked if they didn't score a touchdown. I just don't think they're going to be that good. I think Ohio State's defense is going to do just enough, do what's needed to keep this team from scoring a touchdown tomorrow. A lot of high praise coming today. I know it's football season. I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything. Let's just keep the good times rolling. Now we're going to pick some games for you. Already picked one 12 o'clock game on Saturday. We're going to pick another one, and then we're going to pick one Friday game, one 12 o'clock game on Saturday, one 3:30 kickoff on Saturday, and then also a primetime game, 7 p.m. on the ESPN. Friday, I'm not even going betting lines, just quickly through this. I'm going UCF over Louisville tonight at 7:30. On Saturday, I'm going Alabama over Texas, taking a trip to Austin. I wish I could be there because that's a matchup I have lived to watch my entire life. If I could go there, I would be there, but no, it's not going to happen. 3:30, I'm going Tennessee over Pittsburgh. I never thought I would say that. I never did, but it's an upset as the number 24 team, the Volunteers. I do have them beating Pittsburgh on Saturday. And then in the evening, my guy Brandon Olson from Locked On Gators will like this one. Florida starts 2-0. Florida beats the Kentucky Wildcats on Saturday night in the Swamp. The Swamp at night is different. It's one of my bucket list places. I want to go in college football, and I will. If y'all want to see a guy who's going to go crazy, if their team starts 2-0 after the games that Florida has had to start the season, check out Locked On Gators. On Monday, Brandon Olsen, the host of Locked On Gators, will have fun talking about this Gators game on the next show, assuming the Gators win this matchup. Guys, we're out of here on a Friday. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every single day. Now head over to Locked On Big Ten to check out Nate Dickinson, as he is joined by a local expert every day of the week to take you around the conference in 30 minutes every single day. Locked On Buckeyes and Locked On Big Ten, they're both free and available wherever you get your fine podcasts, on the YouTube, on the Apple Podcast app, the Google Podcast app, the Spotify app, on the Odyssey app, or wherever you get your fine podcast. Both podcasts and every podcast across the Locked On Podcast Network, they are free. Free, that spells free. We all love free things. We all love Ohio State football, and I can't wait to see the Buckeyes obliterate, demolish, destroy the Red Wolves tomorrow afternoon in the Shoe.